people. But anyway, thank you everybody for joining today. We've got a super exciting um, hour ahead of us. I know
Sorry,
everybody's
I thought I was sharing. I apologize. Here we
no
go.
worries, no worries.
There we go. We live?
We
We
are
are.
live. Everything's
Excellent. Sorry about that.
and by the way, Erica, there's no URL bar now, so like we're moving up in the world here.
I hacked it for you.
Beautiful. You're a genius. Anywho's, welcome everybody to another installment of our Product Leaders Summit virtual speaker series. We've got a super exciting topic today. We're going to be talking all about annual planning. But before that, real quick, couple of words on what do we do here at Product Leaders Summit virtual speaker series. Basically, our mission is to kind of expand the world of the annual event of the Product Leaders Summit. There's a good 360 plus days of the year when Product Leader Summit is not happening. And obviously, there's a lot of product leaders, amazing product leaders who, for whatever reason, can't attend it annually. So we're all here to create connections throughout the year, learn from each other. This is very much a community-centric series of events. Especially, I mean, if y'all are in the Slack work group, you'll see Erica in and out and up and down all the channels, sharing her wealth of knowledge with people. I can personally say she was super instrumental in me trying to figure out whether I should go from house cat to alley cat this fall, and having people like Erica share her knowledge, whether through events like our late summer, early fall fractional CPO panel that Erica was a part of, was super helpful for myself personally. And so that's kind of why we're here, is that we learn from each other, we support each other, we create connections and all that good stuff. Today's schedule, very similar if you've been to one of our events before. Super simple. I'm going to get off this stage real fast. I'm going to tee up Erica. Then Erica's going to be talking about tackling annual planning, something I know we've all faced to various degrees of success before. We're, of course, going to save as much time on Q&A. So as Erica is going through her presentation, make sure you drop questions in the chat or get ready to drop them as Erica closes her presentation. And then as much time as we can at the end, we'll do a little bit of small group networking and chat with each other. And that's going to be the story of the day. You can move on to the next slide. Real quick, we're product people. We love to understand what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Please hop on over to our NPS survey at the end of this session.
Oh, really?
And then next slide, please. Same thing, more QR codes to scan. Hop on over to Beehive, where you can subscribe to our mailing list, so you'll never ever miss an event or a recap, or in the future even some fun guest posts. And just be a part of all the fun that we're doing. And then next slide. So now the main event. So the reason I'm talking here, usually you'll see Nisish Patel doing the teeing up. I'm here teeing Erica up because my name is Tommy Forsström, first of all. Nice to meet all of y'all. I'm a 25-year plus veteran of building software, but only recently I've hopped on over to the wild and wacky world of being a fractional executive after years and years and years of being a house cat. And the thing I'm learning very rapidly is, even though a lot of the things we fractionals do on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis are fairly similar to the things you do as a permanent employee, there's a lot of perspective that it gives you, and a lot of kind of a different angle to the process, because you are kind of like an outside force helping companies look at things in a more healthy way. And I'm super eager to hear from somebody who's been doing it for much longer than I have. So Erica's been, been in product management for well over 15 years, been consulting for 10 plus years, and has fully been a fractional CPO for over 2 years, which in the world of fractionals is really a veteran, because this is an emerging trend. It is a new idea in a lot of ways. The business side of the fence, kind of the commercial and go-to-market leaders have been a little ahead of the curve. It isn't like a wild thing to have a fractional CFO or a CMO or a CRO. But our world, CTOs, CPOs, have only recently been recognized as a thing you can also kind of rent rather than buy. And people like Erica have been showing what a powerful concept it is. Obviously, the changing landscape with a tighter funding, super weird labor market, and AI kind of messing with everything has accelerated that transformation. And so anyway, I'm super excited to hear from Erica. She's also in progress of launching her own fractional agency focused solely on female leaders, which is super exciting. And like I said, she shares very openly in the Slack work group. So pay attention to all the threads she is poking herself into. But even with that, I know there's going to be a lot of new stuff here today. So Erica, I've already overstayed my welcome. Take it away.
You're good. You're good. Okay. I can talk very quickly. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit on key moments, but I wanted to start with something that was a bit funny because I actually commented on LinkedIn the other day. 99% of you, this will resonate, right? It's like, oh, we'll just make it easy to use. When you are fractional, one of the number one things you get pulled into is to make it easy to use because they built it wrong to begin with. So we're just going to level set there. We all know that products are not perfect. But just wanted to give a little bit of background on my journey. So I fell into software on accident. I co-founded back in 2009 a social media management software company. We used a Word doc to plan strategy. We knew nothing. And we grew that to about 10 million. We were acquired in 2015 by a private equity firm. I took over a couple of different product lines. We had lots of different use cases, global footprint that turned into another acquisition. So I've seen everything from $0, like well north of 100 million for product lines that I've been responsible over. And strategy across whether it's 15 people or 300 people takes a lot of organization. So multiple roadmaps, platform teams versus front end solutions versus data delivery solutions, how business ops all works together. It's messy. It's very, very messy. So that background has really helped me be able to do strategic planning for my clients because I know things that they don't know yet. Did have a quick little blurb, worked for a founder that we didn't quite see eye to eye. And that's really how I fell into fractional. I kind of had an imposter syndrome moment. Like, do I know what I'm doing? Like, heck yeah, I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to tell real world stories. I call my ICP my ideal client profile. I speak about this back in August about the types of companies that I want to engage with. And so if you are considering fractional world, this is very, very helpful. Like if something with Bitcoin or crypto shows up on my plate, I have a hard pass. This is not a passion factor for me. So these are two real world examples. I've got an SMB market example, about 500 or so customers, web and mobile apps. So you've got complexity there of different platforms, 7 or so years in the business. I've been with them for over a year. So I actually went through annual planning last year and then annual planning this year. I do have full-time employees that report to me there. And then we have a second client that is in between kind of SMB, mid-market, several thousand customers. They've got a data reseller plan, bunch of different moving parts there. And so I've been with them since Q4. So that kind of gives you the lay of the land of how much time I've had to go through those. So I'm going to start with company A. I don't name these companies. I'm not going to. Don't ask me who they are. And I want to use them as what I would consider to be a best-in-class example that did not happen overnight. And not every company that I have seen or worked in or worked with can pull this off. So this takes discipline. And that takes from the CEO being very disciplined, strategic thinking, process driven, have targets. So in 2024, when I started working, we had very clear targets of a goal. We had customer centricity. We did product surveys. We had advisory boards. We had heavy, heavy Pendo data involved there. So that was the platform of choice for product analytics. We had that integrated with some other things. We've got chat support. We've got product board in place. So we're getting all the feature requests, all the things feeding in. So there is a tool set that they are prepared and that we use every single day to make decisions off of. All of that feeds in to the priorities and the strategy. So for 2024, the number one business goal was to shift to full self-serve PLG. No more humans, no more sales demos. It was, we want somebody to come and swipe a credit card. So that was our business goal for last year. I use this as an example because part of being strategic is you have to have your foundational elements, and that means being your engineering counterpart. You better like that person. They better like you. There has to be a trust. There has to be a plan. There has to be a communication. But none of what I'm going to show you for 25 planning would be possible without 24 in place. So with this company, I'll show you here in a moment, we did some major milestone work. And you'll see here, we didn't complete everything, but I would still say we were a green light. And we also did retrospectives of looking back how we did for the year, how we did for the quarter. And we put that into place through probably in my career, one of the most impactful decision-making frameworks that I've ever seen. Whether I was at a $400 million company or I was at a $4 million company, we were able to work with a coach on a program called the 3HAG method. And I'm not here touting the program, you should go look at it, but there's a ton of really great YouTube stuff if you want to dig into it. But we used a facilitator, and this goes back to the C-suite and the CEO really wanting to be exceptional. And meet Coach Peter. Peter was our facilitator throughout all of 24, almost all of 24. And he took us through, you see this crazy chart here. He took us through all of these working sessions. We were collaborating in Miro. We're all remotely distributed. I've actually only met one person on the team ever face-to-face. And Peter would come in and he would challenge us. And what was so positive about this from an annual planning perspective is we had a coach, right? He was like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about this? Tremendous value to be able to, help us think through things. And this is, I've just brought you a couple pieces of that crazy chart of things I've done with other companies, but never with this much structure. But getting all of your constituents, whether you're fractional or full-time, into a room and starting to get their perspectives onto sticky notes, and like we call it gutting it out or debating, or you're having healthy sort of friction of, is that really what we need to be known for? But what are the top 10 things that you as a company want to be known for? And we challenged ourselves. We spent a couple of hours in Q4 after doing some other baseline work to really brainstorm as a group. And it was hard. Sales perspective has a different opinion. The CEO has a different opinion. I had a different opinion, especially coming as fresh eyeballs. They've all been in the company for over 5 years. I was the newbie, had only been, at that point, about 12 months in. And so everybody of what we hear and what we think and our bias towards all of that, this exercise turned into a competitive ranking. And so we took those top 10, and then we all, again, there was another format where Peter coached us through, and we went through this, and we went and scored ourselves. And we said, where does this, where is us versus out here in 3 years, which 3-year planning in B2B SaaS to me is mind blowing. I work with some companies that can't think 6 weeks ahead. I worked with other companies that are all like 12 months, but none of it ever becomes real. So I don't know if I can't see you all head shaking or not, but personally, 12 months sounded petrifying. 3 years was like, you want a what? I can't think of that far, but it was a strategic forcing of who we are and how we compare, like, who are we today and who do we want to become? And we don't know what our competitors here in the middle lane are doing, but we certainly know that that is a decision maker that our prospects are being swayed. Is it the marketing out there, the go-to-market motion is not clear? What did we go and, can we secret shop? Can we try to look at win-loss analysis? Like all these data points we tried to pull in for this exercise. And I bring this as an example because this is not something that you sit in a boardroom or you whiteboard and you put sticky notes and you do it on December 15th and go, there's our strategy for next year. Sounds great. And I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but I certainly have been in that seat. And then the next Friday, somebody comes and walks down the hall or virtually knocks on my Slack door and goes, I think we should do this instead. I'm like, we just spent all this time trying to align and now you want to change. So that's that sort of like ricochet behavior. This solved that, but we as a team committed to it. And what it did is it gave us the white space. So these were, again, we took these attributes, we took ourselves today, we took where we thought our competitors were for as much as we knew. And then we said, where do we want to be? Where do we want to be great? Where do we want to be average? Where don't we want to invest? And so you'll see here, I intentionally can't give you real information, but you'll see here what opened up was it said, that's an opportunity for us to differentiate. That's an opportunity for us to say, good enough. We don't have to be great. And my personal experience has been you can build very, very broad and kind of half-ass, pardon my French, or you can build very focused and be great. And this was the commitment to us to be great. And so what we're taking from that is gut checking every quarter out to that 3-year, that 3 highly audacious goal and say, are we still right? Are we good? And it takes rigor. It takes discipline to do that, but it was tremendously insightful for all of us. The next step of what we also did is I call this empathetic product. We went in well beyond personas, right? What do they look like? What is the company construct? What's their revenue? What is the problem space? Who's the buyer, the decision maker? We went into what is the person, because being in the SMB motion in particular, I need to, is this a family-owned business that I need to sway because they want more time with their kids? They want to be able to do the thing from, the mobile app versus they're sitting in an office in some huge corporation somewhere. We want to go after what the feeling is, so like a psychographic. And there was about 15 more questions that we really challenged ourselves. So it's not persona, it was the core customer and who they are. We had conversations even to, in this SMB world, what kind of vehicle do we think they drive? What part of the country do they live in? Are they globally focused or are they locally focused? And so that was really an interesting exercise. I'll be fully honest, I don't have a lot of SMB experience. I'm much more enterprise. I learned so much from doing this type of exercise above and beyond like what the buying decision was. So I use that as an example. The other thing from an annual planning perspective that was part of us in our accountability is the accountability and the transparency to the company. So we had an annual kickoff. Everybody, whether you're an engineer, you're on QA, or you're the person who receives the support ticket, we have a monthly town hall. We do a monthly, quarterly review. How are we coming? We do a weekly leadership, what we call our L10 structure. We come with pre-filled out informations. We have daily 15-minute check-ins. Now, I'm not on all of these because I'm only with this company a couple days a week, but I can see everything that's happening even when I'm not in office, per se. And then we also have a transparent roadmap, and we do that gut check. Are we on the right track? So everything is visible. We are measurable. We're executing. There's communications as releases are done. We're talking about everybody. We have customer newsletters, which I just worked on for yesterday with my product marketer. Complete efficiency, which took us a little time to get to, but now it is moving. And we don't have to have meetings for the sake of having meetings because there's documentation that can be looked at. So we landed literally into a high level quarterly initiative of where we want to go strategically, not into the functionality of what it will be. And that was like an eye-opening experience. So we did take all of year, But really the core of this annual planning did happen in December because we've done the foundational work throughout the year. So I would say this is an exceptional situation that I'm very thankful to go through, but there's great resources if you want to take some snippets against that. And then I'm going to step into company B. A little bit different world, been around a little longer. You will notice that there's limited responsibilities, or it's a little confusion over roles and responsibilities, and there's a lot of targets, which means your vision is splintered. And so when the very first thing when I joined them was, okay, I've got to learn the personalities, I've got to learn the culture. This is a much larger business. I need to understand it's a different type of buyer, it's a different type of sales motion. And so what we started with was I needed to get the C-suite aligned. Do we have written what our key objectives are? I didn't have time of all of 2024 to do everything I just described to you. That's, kind of top notch. But how do I start getting everybody communicating? There was a very kind of siloed mentality. And after a couple of hours of moving things around on a Miro board, which again, we've got some different executives who are like, send me a PowerPoint. So to get them to play in a Miro was earth shattering. What is this thing? You'll have to drive it for me. It's fine. No problem. Pulling it down to the basics, trying to start with collaboration tools. We did come out with, I called them OKR-ish, with something, right? The group of us said, okay, for the next 12 months, these are our 3 aligning initiatives. And so that now has traveled and trickled into some other situations. So we went and we defined, what does that mean? We want to bring a new new product. We have an older product that we want to prepare and start to move customers. We want to say, these are our tools where we go, make sure all of our employees know what to do. We want to create a transparent roadmap. I'm going to show you an example of why that's really important here in a moment. We want to have release communications. I don't know how many of you work in an organization that the support person sends over, hey, did the button for the thing change? Your engineering team shipped a new thing to production and told nobody about what had happened and the user experience changed. And CS is the one who found it, or the customer, the end user found it. So all of those types of things, we have just got a lot of moving parts, and it's change management was sort of the Q1 priority that we all committed to. We ended up with at least a roadmap of not anything too fancy. I've never built a Miro roadmap in my life, and that's okay. This was the tool I had. I didn't need to go get fancy. This is not a place that needs a product board or for big product plans or fancy notions or anything else. And what I did for part of the annual planning was to go to all these disparate business units and ask them what their plans were. Some folks had Google Docs, some folks had sticky notes, some folks had Jira, some folks had a spreadsheet. And let's put that into one big single pane across the business, because there's only so many people to do the work. And so to have that horse trading of what we can do now versus what has to wait, are there dependencies? It's hard to see here, but there's some line dependencies. I was just trying to get to April. And what the change management is, if it's not real and it's not in a plan, it's not happening. So as a team, we are now meeting monthly to review and do the horse trading and make sure that we're starting to change our own behavior. That to me is innovation, right? We're moving baby steps forward. Great, perfect. And I used I built this, actually, I think I saw one of my old employees, I think, popped onto this call. He might've been part of this working session. This is when I'm working with a new client and explaining, because they don't fully understand how much planning and all these inputs really go into, I just realized I have a misspelling, planning, really go into what it takes to deliver a great experience and deliver a great product. And that cross-functional alignment, when I put this up in front of a client or a prospect or a client that's struggling, doesn't understand, they go, it takes all of this to build a SaaS platform? Yeah, it does if you want to build a great one. And so I try to explain, like, can I get you towards better excellence, or do you just want to stay stuck? Do you want to just stay stuck? I'm not the person to help you, and I will back out of a contract because I can't help those who don't want to help themselves. So that's what I have learned, that the difference is, being in full time, you're just like, oh, banging your head against the wall. I have the choice to go, okay, we're in contract terms, but I'm not fitting with you. You're not fitting with me. And that's okay. We can gracefully, I'm not going to just leave, but we can gracefully figure out what's best for the business. But it's a benefit of going fractional if you're considering it. Starting with more accountability and transparency, getting a sales kickoff. This is not a town hall group, not a company-wide meeting group. We are pushing towards that, which is awesome. We've got leadership starting to be aligned. We have an offshore team involved with a nearshore team, and so all sorts of people moving, building different things. So making sure I'm staying in tune, getting things into Jira, visibility. We've got roadmap kind of in flux. That's why I was just mentioning all the different tools that are out there. We've got a motion with customer success about in-app help, about a great support center, about training. What does that look like? We've got CRM, data hygiene that we need to have happening there. We've got release notifications finally moving along. And so it really is, again, it's helping them drive what they don't know how to do themselves, or they don't know how to implement and have the discipline. So that's a lot of what goes into sort of the planning with that group. So between the two, and I'm not going to give anybody a bad score. My personal professional experience is we got an A+ player and we got a work in progress, and neither of them are wrong. But part of the difference of when you're fractional versus full time is you get to see a lot of different worlds. And so when I'm learning from the work in progress, I might be bringing to the other customer, other client, a new example of like, hey, have we thought about this? We're having training problems here. So I'm really actually starting to grow my knowledge of business competition or competency. Sorry, it's a little late on Friday. And so my takeaways are, I like this quote. This was on LinkedIn if you follow me there. You must understand the maturity and the appetite of a CEO. Meaning, if you have a CEO who is a control freak or a first time founder who just wants to create ideas constantly that don't tie to a business goal, it's going to be a rough battle. I educate as much as I facilitate. So because I've seen a lot of things, I'm not always playing, to my third point, I'm not always playing fractional product person. I'm sometimes playing coach, strategist, CMO, CRO, chief operator. I'm all the hats depending on what's happening there, because I've seen different scale. And my whole point is to get them to where they're prepared to go to whatever next milestone or phase they want, and then fade to black, or make sure they get the right person, the right team. Fractional is not like a contract bound in my mind. It's a stage bound experience. So I might be fractional with a client or two for another year or two, which is fine. But I'm there to be preparing them and to have my sort of imprint on their business functional when I'm not in the room. That's what I've learned. It's taken some time to learn that. And for year of 2025, for every customer, for anybody, for any company, I'm a big believer in customer-centric processes. So, the joke is we probably should have talked to people outside the building, aka outside the headspace of the team. And that's probably the most effective way that I've seen for strategy to flow well. So that's what I got. Hopefully it was helpful to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. Super duper helpful stuff. And I know there's already been some questions in the chat. And please, people, feel free to drop questions in the chat, or just raise your hand and get in on the action. Also, just a note, this might be a first that we're actually staying on schedule with the presentation. So we'll see what happens with the Q&A. Those usually run away really nicely, but this bodes well for us to have a also some networking at the end.
It's a good thing Erica talks fast.
Yeah,
I tried to be thorough. Words matter. That's my words matter.
words are good. We're big fans of words here. We can start with Rohit had a question towards the start of the presentation. So I think, Erica, you alluded to some of this through the journey, but Rohit said, or actually, Rohit, do you want to hit us up with your question in person so I don't
Yeah, Eric,
try to paraphrase?
great presentation. So the
Thank
first
you.
company you spoke of, it had a very good kind of process-oriented kind of planning cycle that you described. A lot of times I find like, how do you sell them on the time commitment that they need to put into it to get the yield that you displayed a little later? So did you have to articulate, it's a 5-week process, I need you once a week to give me 2 hours, a week, or how did you kind of negotiate that piece? Because I think that's always a challenge.
So I will be full transparency. I was blessed with a CEO who really was already kind of in the mindset. And if you listen to the August, you can figure out who that is because she came and actually talked about the experience on that call. So it came from internally. We all agreed that we wanted to do better. But that reflection was actually because they knew they had been spinning their wheels, doing the same thing over with no different results. And so she was like, there's got to be a better way. So it was the aptitude for that. There was already in it. I didn't have to sell them on it. But what I did, and I'll give Peter credit on this because I told him, I said, I'm stealing some of your slides. What it did is just remind me of there is some really basic key things that any company should do. They don't have to go through that whole rigorous 13 three hag stuff. There's some basics that we all should just be pushing on, like who your client is. I worked at a company with over hundreds of millions of dollars, and persona research was 5 years old. So, like, who are you selling to? So, I think I just got lucky, honestly. But there's some basics that we all should be
Yeah,
pushing on.
fair enough. Thanks.
Oh yeah.
So, due to popular demand, I did make a snide comment during your presentation about like who's ever had a first time founder or a CEO or an over eager beaver executive uh, pounce all over great plans 2 weeks into the world and annual plans on January 7th get trampled. Erica, your favorite tactics on reconciling the volatile world of founders and
Yeah.
the world of planning?
I gotta choose my words carefully right now. Um, I my pro tip on that is I used to say no a lot, like no, no, no. I would just say not now because. So I started changing my tone, not so I didn't come like you're attacking me. I was like, okay, let's discuss why. And then it's the old classic. Well, if we pull something forward, something else has to come out conversation. And so having that bigger understanding of like rough t-shirt sizing. So I make friends with my engineering counterpart as fast as humanly possible. And I want that relationship because if somebody comes and says, oh, well, what about blah, blah, blah idea? I want to be able to go kick on somebody's door and go, okay, need a couple minutes. Here's conceptually high level. Give me like, is this a tank top or is this like you got to build a snow parka? How hard is this? And so from there, I can get an idea of like how much time it's going to take and then come back to them to go, okay, this is bigger than you think it is. Because a lot of those crazy ideas on the surface look tiny, but they take tremendous amounts of architecture, engineering work, like all the things. So I just, instead of saying no, I say not now. I go talk to my engineering counterpart. I don't publicly tell my team. And then we have to do some horse trading. That's how I've tried to navigate it. It's not perfect.
Two quick comments on my end. First of all, you clearly have worked a lot with Canadians, and I know we have a big Canadian constituency here. The whole tank top or snow parka, never heard it before. Gonna use it abundantly from here on out. The other thing is from a personal experience, I feel like what you just said is easier as a fractional because at least, again, I don't know about the rest of y'all. Whenever I've had my plans challenged, I've felt personally attacked and my amygdala has been flaring and putting me in fight or flight. Whereas
Mhm.
as a fractional, it's a little easier to maybe like remove yourself from the situation and look at it objectively, just like Erica was just kind of presenting or guiding us. And that's been one of the things I've noticed already as a fractional that it's not as threatening, if you will. Um, we do have some hands up here. Jonathan.
Hi, Erica.
Hi, Jonathan used to be on my team.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going.
Cool. I've got, well, basically it comes down to 3 questions. And sorry if you've already answered the first one. I came in a little bit late, but how did you find these clients and
Mhm.
how did you vet them?
Mhm.
And as a bonus question, have you ever turned down a client due to when you're vetting them, you just come across some red flags, and have any fun stories about what those might be?
The answer is yes. I'm dating in my 40s, so I use that sort of like red flag mentality. You are a quick no. So the answer is yes. Have turned down business. I have pointed business to others that I thought, oh, maybe that's a better fit. So I said it early on, but ideal client profile, what types of businesses do you want to work in? What stage of company? So I use that as a little bit. I also just, I don't want to work with jerks. So if I feel like I don't even get along with that person in the first 30-minute kind of intake call, it's probably not going to go well. One of the key questions I always ask is what's your turnover in the product role? I learned that from a previous full-time role. I should have asked that question. There had been 5 people in 7 years, so there's a flag. Finding the business is the hardest thing to do. If you're not great at selling, or I've actually packaged and productized myself, like here's what I can do, here's the services, here's the bounds of what that looks like. And that took some discipline on my own side, because originally a couple years ago I'd be like, I can do everything. Well, that I can, but I don't want to. And so networking, more networking, asking people for introductions, lots of LinkedIn content. I'm now to the point where I have a new website coming. I've got social story, like customer testimonials, case studies, things of that nature. So it's taken time. But you have to go ask for the business. And we actually talked about that in the August episode. There's like 4 or 5 of us that all talked about some strategies for that, if you want to go back and listen to that. But it's not easy. I'm all inbound now. I was all outbound at the beginning. I don't know if that answered your question, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm also sort of tag on, like, for your A plus company, for your work in progress, your WIP company B, it sounds like you've got a bit more work to do there. So it's still open. But for company A, like, do you feel like you're planning an exit and like how to offboard in that?
We're committed to each other through the end of this year, and we'll see where the business is at. We'll see, we've got some great team members in place, and I actually do a lot less on the product strategy there. I've hired a senior PM who is fantastic, great working relationship with him. So I probably only have to put 25% of headspace versus before it was 75,
Mm,
and getting him up to speed. So my role is shifted. I've become more of a COO and sort of the go to market, the website revamp, the positioning
right.
statements, training, adoption, all of that sort of stuff. So I don't foresee that there's an end there, but it depends on where they're at. And I'm 2 days a week. They might only need me 1 day a week next year, and that's okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
All right. Got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Teja Sweeney, and I hope I'm saying that name correctly and completely butchering it. Apologies if I did. Had a really, really, really good and hairy question about. Sorry, again, please, if you want to ask it yourself.
Oh, thank you. And you said my name correctly. Thank you for that. Yeah, my question is something related to what I have seen happen, like even when I was a full-time product person, where, the company's been around for 10 or 12 years. Now they're looking for new growth. They've kind of capped out on growth. It's very flat growth. And, when you go through planning, you cross-functional ideas come in, but there's a lot of skepticism, right? Oh, we've tried this, it did not work. We tried this. So they didn't want to try, or there's like a lot of eye rolling when it comes to planning. A, have you faced that? I'm sure you have. B, how have you addressed it successfully?
Yes, I faced it. I faced it in full-time roles, not just fractional roles. Jonathan can attest. When I took over as chief product officer, there was 7 different technologies that were all trying to be pulled into one. So we had a Frankenstein approach that back in the day. you have to know your audience. You have to understand sort of like, am I going to come in and hurt feelings? Because like, was it the founder's idea to build the thing that sucks? And he like thinks, or he, she, they think it's the greatest thing ever. And I'm coming in with, and I throw around my experience and go, okay, you hit this ceiling, but you brought me here to go here. So you can't keep doing the same things. And here's an idea of how we go. I generally will go and find other examples out there that are similarities that I can say, here's a best in class example. So even like structuring around release notes, as silly as that seems, I go to Slack, look at Slack's personality, look at their log, look how they're constantly informing of all the changes that are coming. And they go, oh, that's what you mean. So if I can show them an example of something that I'm trying to push change towards, but it goes back to the red flag conversation. If I start contracts generally with 3 months, and I do that as like the dating honeymoon period, if I can't start to make rapid changes within the first 30, 40 days, there's no reason for us to extend. So instead of going 12 months, yeah, I got a big long contract, or you get me all of such and such, I will go and say, let's see what we do together. And sometimes that means it might be 40 hours a month if I have capacity to do that. Or because of the team that I'm building, I might oversee somebody on my team and put them in place and get the lay of the land with me coaching and kind of involved, but I'm not doing the work. There's no clear answer. So it's just sometimes it's not a good fit because you don't want to change, and therefore I should leave. It's not a fun place to be.
All right, let's do one last one. I see Chris, you got your hand up. Let's wrap up on your question, and then Nishith, you're gonna put us into little bins after that.
Cool. Thank you, Tommy. Hi, Erica. Thank you very much for a presentation. I was smiling throughout. A lot of things resonated. I love that you were looking at longer than 1 year planning. I've had a challenge where when you go beyond a year, people are looking for step functions. People are looking for massive changes. And even when you do those kinds of like charts of like the right to win of where the gaps are, people kind of like gravitate on those and say, okay, well, we can just build a whole new product right there, and double our revenue. Like, have you faced that, and how do you respond to it?
I face that more in the full-time world than I have in the fractional world. So some of that is just the company level of that, my ideal client profile looks like. My personal profile is that you have a product that needs to not be rebuilt, but could be revised. Sometimes it's tech debt, like that slide I showed you, all of those technical things that have to happen before we can go. Good example is the Python upgrade. That took months and months and months, but you know what? We're shipping product now so fast that our customers can't even keep up with it. So it's understanding or explaining like what the value is of the work that's going to be done versus we're just going to go build a whole new one. Because the other tricky part is to go build a whole new one in a smaller company means you now are splitting and distracting into, you have your old system, and then you're now putting engineering money resources to a new system. And so instead of spending the time to possibly make the old system better, you're losing time because this customer over here, this cohort is still alive. They're still paying you. So you have to put them on life support while you figure out what the new thing is. And most companies that are hiring fractional don't have the resources to do that. So it's kind of bringing that example to the table, or what is your migration plan? Is it a 12-month, or are you going to keep this thing alive for 3 years? So while you rebuild a new one, how long is it really going to take? You got to get to somewhat of a parity. So it's complicated. It's not a one size fits all answer again, and I'm sorry to be vague on that, but it's situational. If you just got a new round of funding and you're going to park that funding towards a net new thing, that's a different decision than, you're running on life support and your EBITDA sucks. So, I mean, all those things come into play with kind of the proposals and the decisions.
All right. There was one last really quick question. So Alexandra, do you want to hit us up real quick, and then we'll move to networking after that?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you, Erica, for your presentation. Yeah, I have a quick question about how you got the buy-in from your CEO. Like, was it hard, and did you have any challenges?
For which CEO?
Like the CEO that you partnered with in your company that you're working for. I guess sometimes it's very hard to get this buy-in, and there is this resistance, you know, maybe not in this company, maybe some other companies. Like, did you have some sort of problems like that?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're asking or forcing a process around something and people aren't comfortable, they just want to sort of do what they've done, or you're going to slow us down because you want to have these meetings or these structures, and it's my words tend to be, listen, it's going to feel hard right now, but the work we do now is going to make us run faster in the future. And so it's kind of like, when you're trying to get into shape, we got to exercise these muscles a little bit before we get the muscles. And so I try to explain the value of what it's going to unlock and stay away from focusing on that there's about to be a bunch of process, meetings, documentation. I just triggered myself. So somebody joking about Python triggering you. Okay, we need a therapy moment. How many of you have gone full-time or not and worked at a company, and you ask, well, how does this thing work? And they say, go talk to Bill, go talk to Susie, go talk to Bob, because nobody wrote it down. That waste, amen. That waste of time and the amount that it just creates chaos, just explaining the human sunk cost to figure out how something works is a reason that I use to sway to get them to say, let's put some rigor around some planning. Because I could probably go find 10 examples of that. How does the thing work? I don't know. Like, you have a hit by the bus. You have $20 million and nobody knows how it really works. And nobody wrote it down. That's bad. That's an example you could use to sway towards why some structure makes sense.
Thank you, Erica. This
You're welcome.
resonates a lot.
I'm going to probably need to relax a little after this phone call. Now I feel a little anxiety.
Well, it is kind of sort of Friday afternoon, so I think we've all deserved. I mean, the West Coasters might need to wait just a little longer to like crack open the weekend, but anywho's, shall we network a little bit? Nishith,
Yeah.
you got